Good morning, everybody. It is Friday, the 31st of July. We are going to start our town hall here on AB Nexus here any minute. We're just allowing folks an opportunity to join in from the wait room. There's about 100 folks that have joined, so we're just giving another minute so everybody can get in before slides actually start. We appreciate everybody taking the time this Friday morning to hop on this town hall. We hope it will be very informative for everyone. The format for today is we're going to go through slides. We ask that if folks can hold their questions until the end, that would be appreciated. At the bottom of your screen, next to your Zoom icons, there is a Q&A feature there. We ask that you type in any questions that you may have, and we will address those at the end for Q&A at the end. So it is now a little after 8:03. Welcome everyone for joining. I am going to turn it over to Dr. Thomas Flagg, our Vice Chancellor for Research at the CU Anschutz Medical Campus, and Dr. Terry Fries, our Vice Chancellor for Research and Innovation at CU Boulder. Welcome.
Well, thanks, Natasha, and I'm happy to make some comments and then look forward to the comments from Terry as well. So I just say we're delighted to be at this point in this process. Really, ever since the first time Terry and I started visiting about opportunities, we had envisioned making some real and substantial changes in this area. And so the way that the two campuses work together, and we're really pleased and I think thankful for all the people that have helped us along this way. We've had some advisory groups and some working groups that have thought through this. One of the comments that I got very early on after starting this role was that doing research between CU Anschutz and CU Boulder, it wasn't a special relationship. It was just a routine sort of interaction. I think what we've endeavored to do here, and it's really been a bilateral effort, is to make it a special relationship and have an administrative model, the logistics of doing research simplified and streamlined, and address some of the pain points that people have identified over time. And I think we're really heartened to see what I would say are concrete and real changes that have happened around this. And we'll highlight a number of things today. First of all, the administrative changes that are in place or already in place or will happen shortly. There's a grant funding program we'll talk about. And again, we'd like to thank the chancellors of both campuses, the president's office, who have helped to fund this, both the personnel you'll get a chance to meet and the funding apparatus. And lastly, the navigators, the research partnership specialists. I think we have a couple different monikers for the great folks in place here. We're going to be on site, so we'll have one in CU Anschutz and one in CU Boulder. To me, they're going to be an incredibly important part of this whole process. I think when you're trying to get research collaboration together, to have an on-site person that can help make connections and logistics be really good. So I'm happy to introduce for CU Anschutz, Diane Liddell. So Diane will be speaking with Kristen a little bit, and Diane's been on campus here at CU Anschutz for some time and really has experience both in the adult and the pediatric research side and some translational things. It brings a lot of experience to this position. She has a master's in public health, and I frankly think she takes some of that training and community engagement sort of work into this, which is a real plus. So with that, I'd just like to thank everybody for being here, for all those that have helped us to get to this point, and pass things off to Terry.
Thank you, Tom. I think you did a fantastic introduction, and I'm just thrilled to be able to work with Tom. As he said, when we first connected, it was like there's just a tremendous opportunity, and we both felt like there was so much potential. And as we started talking to faculty on both campuses, we heard all the reasons that it couldn't work and all the reasons why we could never make it work. And we're going to defy all of those odds. And I think the investment from the chancellors from both campuses and the president is really, they're putting their money where their mouth is. And we're being resourced in a way that's going to help us to build this relationship. And there's a strong commitment to understand what are the barriers and removing those. So you'll hear about that today. And I think one of the key features, as Tom talked about, is really having our relationship specialists on both sides. And so Tom introduced Diane. I'm going to introduce Kristen Krazewski. And Kristen has a PhD. She's done a lot of work working in universities with outside entities, across entities, and has been fantastic. I think one of the barriers or challenges we've had in our process here is COVID. And when COVID hit, it did slow us down a little bit, but it didn't stop us. And now we're putting our pedal to the metal. So I'm just really excited for all of you to hear about this today and to be able to work with your campus liaison to help build this relationship. I think if we look out 5 or 10 years, we're going to say that this was really a pivotal point for both of our campuses and really helped elevate the state of Colorado because of this effort. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Diane and Kristen.
Thank you. Next slide. Go back one. As indicated, Diane and I are going to be your main points of contact on either campus, Diane at Anschutz, myself at Boulder. We really appreciate the support of Dr. Flagg and Dr. Fees, as well as many others who aren't pictured here, who are really involved in the AB Nexus and will continue to be so as we move forward. Most of all, we're especially excited for the opportunity to work with many of you. Next slide. So AB Nexus is an initiative to strengthen collaborations between the University of Colorado Anschutz and Boulder campuses to impact the human health and well-being. Right now, there's an average of 9 partnerships receiving funding from NIH annually. There's a real opportunity here to expand and diversify our collaborative portfolio of work. Next slide. Next slide. For this. Our goals through AB Nexus are really to identify areas of collaboration, to also incentivize teams to create sustained partnerships, and then to remove barriers that hinder connectivity. Next slide. We provide a number of mechanisms for support. First, through program administration. Groups on both campuses have already made progress to remove a lot of administrative barriers that have hindered collaborations in the past. In terms of research development, we can also assist in a number of ways, whether this is through connecting individuals or groups across campuses, the launch of the AB Nexus Collaboration Grant Program, in working with those funded teams who receive support through the program to identify additional external funding. Next slide. Current progress with respect to program administration includes the execution of a Memorandum of Understanding. So this is funds committed by Anschutz and Boulder campuses, as well as the President's Initiative. The AB Nexus will have $3 million total committed across 3 years, and this will help fund projects and program activities sponsored by the AB Nexus and the support from partnership specialists, Diane and myself, on each campus. In terms of administrative process improvements, we've also executed a master collaboration agreement between the campuses. And what this does is it will expedite joint proposal reviews. It will reduce form and signature requirements on those joint proposals. And then it removes F&A that was previously charged on the first $25K of direct costs on inter-campus subcontracts. Next slide.
I'm going to start with some current progress. So thank you again, Dr. Flagg, for the introduction, and thanks, Kristen, for starting us off there. Current progress, the research support that will be coming out starting this fall includes over $700K total committed for fiscal year 2021. The grant program will run fall and spring semesters. There will be two tracks, as we call them. A new collaboration, which we have more details coming out next week about, will be a $50K award, while a larger award of $125K for existing collaborations. The award durations will be 12 months, and as stated before, our first projects will start in December of this year. Next slide. Next steps. So program administration, we will continue to work on these their existing barriers and making things better, easier for everybody involved. The master collaboration agreement, which has been executed, will be developed for more process improvement. We'll look at post-award invoicing on joint proposals, and we will be soliciting feedback from faculty. We want everybody's opinion here to make it the best possible program here. And then on to the grant program. We'll release that RFP hopefully early August. And then we will hold 2 campus events, and one will be an info session with a Q&A. All questions could be answered. We'll also have a research blitz presentation series where people can come present their ideas. If they're looking for collaboration, if they have collaboration, they can present. This will promote teaming. And we'll also be collecting applications and recruiting reviewers for anyone who wants to become involved in this program. Next slide, please. So in summary, very excited to be here, very important, exciting collaboration here between the 2 campuses. We will continue to improve administrative processes, assist with the connectivity between campuses. We've already seen a lot of it over the last few months, even within COVID. The grant program funding is very exciting. The proposal development services, again, emphasizing that the 2 of us are here to help out. I'm on Anschutz campus, Kristen is on Boulder's campus. If you'd like to get involved, you can volunteer to be a reviewer. We'll have that out on our website and in other communications to follow in early August. Present or attend the AB Nexus blitzes. And I'd also like to comment that we are here. We can come and discuss with departments. We can discuss one-on-one with individuals, and just as easy as sending an email to us, and we can reach out and really support. I know not everyone could join here today, but we are available to come to departments or one-on-one meetings. Next slide. So just a thank you, and our website is live, and we will open it up for any other comments or questions. We're here for you to have a town hall and continue the discussion live here. Thank you.
I think we should also mention that Gary Henry from the Boulder campus is on, and Amy Gannon from Anschutz campus also to help answer questions.
Yeah, I see a couple questions are rolling in here.
I would say that the first question being posed from the audience is, has funding been reserved to support undergraduate researchers and/or provide mentor training?
So Terry, I'm happy to take out a first thought at that, but feel free. I would say there's a little bit of humility in setting this up as well. So we have a certain idea, and we're very open to the idea we're have to adapt this over time. The thought on this was there'd be somewhat agnostic, as I think about it, between junior faculty and senior faculty, and sort of open it up. The main purpose in a lot of ways is to bring the campuses together, and that could be across different types of researchers, from, again, more junior researchers and so forth. A mentorship part of this per se, though, isn't explicitly a part of the process, but we'd certainly be open to that, how that could be integrated best. And Carrie, I don't know if you have some additional thoughts on that.
I think that's a really good answer of we are open to things. We really want to help incent the collaboration between the campuses, and the best way that you think to do that should be part of your proposal. Kristen, do you want to take the next one? Irene Blair.
Sure. Irene's asking, will reviewers be excluded from the competition? Typically, we ask reviewers to identify that if they are interested in participating in the grant competition, are going to be a co-PI or a collaborator, that they remove themselves from being a reviewer.
You want to take the next one, Kristen?
Sure. The amount of funds that will be dedicated to the grant program in year one, that's going to be $772K. split into 2 different cycles, one in the fall semester, one in the spring semester.
I would sense too, there might be some flexibility. So if there weren't as many projects in one group, we may slide that to the next. And I'm just kind of watching. I think that's where we're thinking about this too. But we wanted to sort of designate a target amount for the year just to get things underway. But yeah, I think there's some real funding there. It's a significant amount of money.
There's a question: is there going to be specific support aspects for early career and junior faculty? Yes, one of the funding tracks for the grant program is going to involve new collaborations. And so that will really be aimed at maybe folks who are interested in forming collaborations who haven't been on campus that long, but to really promote the growth of junior faculty, for example. And of course, Diane and I are also happy to work with junior faculty as you're looking to reach across campuses and start collaborations early in your career.
There's one anonymous question here that might be best for Gary or Amy about primes and subs. I don't know if either one of you want to grab that one.
The question, this is Amy Gannon. So the question is, how will prime subs be determined for collaborations that come through this initiative? Will it be a different process than what has occurred in the past? And actually, I think this is more related to the collaboration with the faculty and how they come together and decide who's the prime award versus the contract on there. So I think I might actually turn that back to Kristen and Diane if I'm reading the question correctly. So who would be the prime recipient? Who would be the prime PI on this? If that would be the correct way to interpret this.
I think that's really determined by the team submitting for you to decide who should be the lead on the grant program, for example.
And Amy, do you want to just, and maybe Gary as well, do you just want to put a fine point? I know you and Gary have done all this work on the interacts and so forth. I just have noted over the years there's some confusion on how that works in the first 25,000 and so forth. If you just want to say a word about what's been the past process and what the current process, again, either Gary or you that would want to comment on that, it might be helpful for the group.
Sure, this is Amy. I'd be happy to do that. So in the past, and actually with other awards that we have with other institutions, if you are the prime recipient and you are subcontracting to Boulder campus in the past, on the prime award, you're allowed to collect F&A on the first 25,000 that is incurred at the Boulder campus. So that's an additional overhead. And with this collaboration, you will no longer be charging that additional F&A on the subcontract. So each campus will have their direct costs and their F&A, and there won't be an additional F&A on top, if that makes sense.
Thanks, Amy.
You bet.
I think the next question that would be good to address is, are there particular themes of interest, pharma, device? I'll throw that over to Kristen and Diane.
Yeah, I can start to answer that one. There is a slide that we have, if Natasha, if you're able to go to the beginning. We've listed some out, but it's certainly not limited to those. We really want the creativity to run wild, whatever you put together as a collaboration that you see as something that's really important to our state of Colorado and our community here. So a few slides before, we've listed some things as bioengineering, mental health, public health, engineering, and I think it's a few slides with the magnifying glass. Yeah, so we've listed those, but it definitely goes beyond just this, and just keeping in mind the goals there: improved health, well-being, thought innovation, economic development.
And there's another question here. What is the vision for long-term commitment to the program beyond year 3? How about I'll start this, and Tom, you take it from here.
Sure.
You know what we realized is we had to start. And probably we didn't anticipate that we would have the level of support from the president's office and our campuses. So we're thrilled with that. I can tell you when we briefed the chancellors about 2 weeks ago, you know, Don Elliman and the Boulder chancellor both were, you know, our plan is to continue this and to build on it. So I think we want to demonstrate success, show those milestones are hit, and that these collaborations yielded more and more, not only collaborations, but bigger programs, higher, more impact. And I think they're ready to continue to invest and probably grow that investment, but we've got to get started. Tom, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's very well stated. My question would just be how this will best evolve over time. And again, I think we bring some humility to say this is what made a lot of sense after a lot of input to have these two different tiers of sort of new collaborations and then existing. And we, again, correct me if I misspeak here to the team here, but we think somebody could have a new collaboration, initial kind of seed funds, and that could then expand to say a year later come back and say, we've got a collaboration that you helped us start. We want to go to the next level. We're actually thinking about a project grant or a larger effort, and that sort of progression I think would be a positive thing. And my other question is just beyond 2 to 3 years as we evaluate this program, that'll be an ongoing process. How does it best evolve, and what do we learn over time? It's been heartening, as Terry's mentioned, that as this idea moved forward, all levels of the university, the campuses, the president's office, were very, very supportive of this, and I'm excited to see where it will go, and I do see it going beyond 3 years certainly.
And I think you answered Wyatt Shields' question about how do you define a new or existing collaboration? I don't know if you did that intentionally, Tom, but basically, you know, I think that, you know, in his case, he was talking about they've submitted an external grant for funding, but they don't have any data yet. Probably starting with a new partnership could make sense, because you could grow into the more existing one and look at how do you build that further as you develop that. So just to kind of fill that one out.
That makes sense.
There's a question, have you considered eventually including other higher education institutions in the state of Colorado? I think that's possible, but what we realized is our challenge was our two campuses working together. And while we're in one University of Colorado, oftentimes it felt harder to work together than it did to work with other institutions. So we're trying to really double down here and build this relationship.
I completely agree with that as well. I mean, again, I would just turn to Diane and Kristen. I think having them in place will have some natural spin-offs of goodness that'll spring from that. I think each of them are sort of learning the campuses, where the potentials are for collaboration, obviously between our two campuses, but I just think naturally that's going to spur additional thinking. And again, I think we're starting here, and it could go to other places.
There's a similar question that goes off of that one. It says, how does existing CCTSI programs and features come into play here? And does that continue in addition to AB Nexus? And Dr. Flagg, maybe you can address that one.
Yeah, absolutely, and happy to have Terry comment as well if she'd like there. So CCTSI, I think, has been one of the programs that's done a really good job of bringing people together across institutions, both for our two campuses, but also institutions across the state. So I would see this as supportive and complementary, certainly not displacing in any way. And again, I suspect we look at this in a couple of years, we'd say, boy, that CCTSI mechanism, other centers that exist, Linda Cernick, other groups that exist across the campuses currently, it's more robust because of what's been able to feed in and complement that. So I would use the word complementary to describe that. And Terry, I don't know if you have other thoughts too.
I think you stated well.
There are 2 questions on our AB Nexus website. You can also look to Diane and I to help have conversations based on your research interests and do some of that legwork for you.
How do we find the AB Nexus website?
It's on the last slide
Nice.
of our presentation. It's also on the system website. So tu.edu/ABNexus.
Nice time.
Everyone, our audience participants, listeners today, as a reminder, this town hall is being recorded, and the recording will be uploaded to this particular webpage. So this will be available as a reference to everyone, and your colleagues who were unable to attend today, you can guide them to that link for this recording as well. Thank you.
And I'll just add to Kristen's comment there with the resources and the searchable data. Colorado Profiles is one of those. That's Cctsi who puts that together. And then we have CU Doctors that we consider another searchable resource. And then the Boulder one, remind me, Kristen, is called?
CU Experts.
CU Experts. So we've got 3 out there currently.
Here's another question I think brings another aspect up that's very important. There are research core facilities on both campuses, which could augment research on both campuses. Would these be opened up on common ground or only through collaboration? Many times collaborations start from use of core facilities.
We've actually met with a couple of people who run core facilities or are looking to expand the scope of core facilities through additional funding. And we agree that teaming with those people to help make those facilities used to the full extent that they can and bring the value to both campuses is really important. So we are very dedicated to working with those groups and helping to build those bridges across campus.
I think one thing I would also add there is that if there are barriers related to that, what we hope is that this process will make it clear, and so that we can remove any of those barriers that may exist.
Yeah, I completely concur. I think that's an opportunity. And again, I think Diane and Kristen are going to really help us to identify some of these other areas and with their energies address those. So I think that's a real opportunity.
Somebody has asked, how long are the grants for? 1 year, 3 years? These are 1 year grant cycles. And then it asks, what happens with funding if one of the PIs leaves for a different institution? And I think we would just take that on a case-by-case basis.
There's another question, will there be an annual presentation of collaboration's outcomes? Yes, we plan to have pretty good reporting from those projects, as well as create events where we can share what the AB Nexus is doing, both through funded projects and through existing collaborations across campus, but to really build the community of research that is traversing across campuses.
There's a question here that's a little more specific that I'd like to throw to Diane and Kristen. I have 2 questions. What are existing collaborative teams across 2 campuses, and what are the teams in Boulder available for specific topics? How would you suggest a researcher get answers to those questions?
I think that the way to address this is, well, there are many existing collaborative teams, and that maybe you follow up with Diane or I to have a personal interaction about the interests that you have with adverse childhood experiences and early prevention. And we can discuss what your research interests are, what you might be looking for to add to your expertise, and we can help you possibly identify other people connected in those fields.
There's a good, oh, Diane, did you want to add anything? Okay. Okay, there's an interesting question, I think, for Amy and Gary. Will the relaxation of subcontract F&A only work for awards funded through this mechanism, or is this a new rule for subcontracts for any grant with collaborators at UCD and UCB?
I'll take this one, Amy. It's across the board. So although the seed grants and those things will allow the emphasis on increased facilitation and collaboration, this is a broader agreement between Anschutz and Boulder to allow more efficient processes across the board, and that F&A is a big part of that.
I would just add to that, I think we see these grants as being an integral part of the process, but really just a feeder to the larger effort. We would love to see more, even large center project grants across we think there's a great opportunity for that. So the rules certainly span beyond the research program to the broader relationship, which is different and real.
There's a question, it says which TTO office will be utilized when IP is produced during the AB Nexus Award? And we have actually reached out to both offices to talk about intellectual property IP, and they've worked with us closely to say, you know, it'll be not one or the other, but there'll be a decision to be made, whatever fits and whatever the team would like as well. So there'll be input taken before it's one or the other.
And our venture partners and CU Innovations groups have worked together a lot. This may be one where we want to have some kind of agreement about when we do these joint things, how we do it. So I think that's a work in progress, and I think could be an exciting development too. There's a question I think would be good for Diane and Kristen to answer. Could you share any other information about the events to facilitate collaboration? For example, the research blitzes?
We'll have more information up on those soon. We're just working through final scheduling and creating some registration links. But we anticipate after we announce the grant program, it will soon be followed by the Q&A session and then a research blitz, both planned for August.
And for those who have not been part of, this is something we've been doing at Boulder, where it's sort of a simple one-page PowerPoint with a summary of what the project is, what you're looking for in terms of collaborators, what the outcomes would be. So that in a quick 2 to 3 minutes, people can see what other faculty are doing and find collaborations through that blitz.
There's a question, it says, how can the outside community best support this partnership and venture? Anyone want to take that one?
I think that's a longer term. Tom, please help me here, but it feels like what we're trying to do right now is build this connection between the faculty at our 2 campuses. And at some point, it will be important to bring in more of the broader community for that. But that really is up to the researchers about what makes sense and how best to do that, at least initially.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right, Terry. I think this will mature over time. Our goal here is to bring people together and make it easy to work together and do collaborative research. And we identified, and as we've discussed here, several things were making it more difficult to do that. So we thought both by the administrative changes and the grant program, we could accelerate that. You know, I think if you look at groups such as the Cctsi and the work they've done in community engagement and projects there, I think there's going to be some natural synergies that develop between those existing programs, for example, the Cctsi and others, and the work we're doing as researchers. So as these projects launch and grow in size and scope and so forth, I think that's going to be a natural evolution again of the things we're doing together.
There's a couple questions about students. One is, would senior undergraduates be included? And the next one is, how many students will be funded? So I'll turn that over to Diane and Kristen.
I think that these would pertain to the grant program, and you'd be welcome to include that funding within the scope of the budget that you submit. And that would really be up to the PIs.
Okay, and then the last question we have here still is, would there be interest in shared teaching? When my daughter was at Boulder, the professor was interested in me giving a lecture for her class. I would say hallelujah, yes. That would be wonderful. And I think that, you know, as we build these connections, you know, I hope that we're just basically going back and forth and leveraging the strengths of each of our campuses and sharing in our teaching and having many sabbaticals back and forth. It's really a beginning. So great question. We'd love to see more of that interaction. Tom?
Yeah, again, well said. I think Terry said it spot on. We want to increase the interactions between the campuses. You know, we're focused on research, innovation, these sorts of things here, but there's going to be some natural spillover or natural kind of a halo effect to other areas. We just mentioned community engagement. We can mention teaching. Terry, I've been talking about this idea of mini sabbaticals, how would that work and so forth. So I think this is the first step of an ongoing process. And I do think that they'll lead to other natural interactions between the institutions, including in teaching. Well, that might be the last question. We got through a lot. I don't know if we counted those, but it was a good exchange. I think for this many people, that Q&A kind of thing has worked pretty well. So I don't know, Terry, maybe we should make some kind of final comments here if there's no more questions. So one just snuck in there. Let's see.
Yes, this is a question about the grant program. If you receive a $50K award for a new collaboration, can you then apply for a $125K award as an established collaboration? Yes, year to year, we may have some flexibility in the grant program to reformulate how we approach the funding tracks. But as it stands currently, yes, if you receive an award for a new collaboration, you could then go on to apply for an established collaboration award.
Great. Tom, do you want me to start with closing comments?
Yep.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is it's a new day. And we are couldn't be more excited about having this opportunity to offer joint grants where we can bring people together, the opportunity to try and understand what the barriers are and remove them. And this is a work in progress. So just to know that, as Tom already said, on the grants, we're kind of waiting to see what comes in so that we can evolve this program, and we're going to continue to evolve it. It's really an entrepreneurial activity, and we're approaching it that way, and we need your inputs and help and guidance along the way. Tom, go ahead.
Yeah, again, thanks, Terry, for those comments. And it's just, again, I'd emphasize it's great to be here. It's been a fair bit of work. Someone said to me this week, "You're going to be able to launch this despite COVID-19? I said, yes, indeed. So to all the people that in a state of some chaos with COVID overlay, we were able to continue to work to pull us together. And again, I just emphasize, we've spoken a fair bit about the grant program. That's a really integral part of seeding some of these relationships, encouraging these relationships that go from new to established and so forth. But there is that structural change that's taken place. And I'm glad someone asked the question to say, is that just for those research programs? No, that's a structural way we're going to interact differently for researchers. And also, I just want to emphasize, Kristen and Diane are going to be, I think, the secret ingredient that's really going to make this work. I encourage you, if you have questions, interactions, to reach out to them, to interact with them. And I think the institutional commitment to allow us to hire individuals to do this process will be a key part of it. I would just end by saying thank you. Thank you to the people on the call today, Kristen and Diane, that did all the work in getting this together for this presentation, to Gary and Amy and everybody else that's been involved in the behind the scenes work that's gotten us this far. And those that joined us, I think we saw 130 people or so on this call. This will be recorded. And again, I'll pass it off to Terry for any final comments, but I just want to add my thanks to everybody involved in the process, including my colleague Terry. It's been great to work on this and together, and a great partnership.
Yeah, let me just join Tom in thanking everyone. I think the more that we've worked together, the more we're enjoying this. So thank you for giving us this opportunity, and I really appreciate, you know, having Tom as a colleague and working with him. And so thank you to Tom too. So I think with that, we'll end the webinar, and thank you for joining us today.